party people? Welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast, where the gaming table is always set for two. I am your host, as always, Jeff Stormer. This week on the show, I am joined by the Ouroboros himself, Belle, for a game of A Lonely Haunt by Kika Delaros. A Lonely Haunt is a two-player role-playing game about using environmental manipulation to communicate your needs and boundaries with another person. Each player plays a ghost haunting a particular place, who is using their ghostly powers to communicate and to establish a language and to establish boundaries and, personal wants and needs with another ghost inhabiting the same space. It is played in a really cool and interesting way. It is a really fun and heartfelt game. I really loved playing it, and I can't wait for you to hear it. You can find more information about A Lonely Haunt in the show note. Aura is a game designer, podcaster, burlesque performer. It does a bunch of amazing things. They are wonderful and incredible. They wrote Our Radios Are Dying, which is one of my favorite games that I've ever played on the show, in life, anything. You can find Aura on Twitter at AuraKate. Real quick before we dive in, I do want to say that this episode is brought to you by the Encounter Party podcast. Encounter Party is an audio adventure podcast featuring 6 professional voice actors, including friend of the show and previous guest Ned Donovan, battling through an epic Dungeons & Dragons campaign edited down to focus purely on the story. Now, I've played games with Ned before. Ned is a dear friend of mine. I've played games with Ned on mic, off mic. I can say Ned... any project Ned is involved in is a project that I love dearly. Check out Encounter Party. I think it's very good, but you don't have to take my word for it. Nerdist has called Encounter Party a critical hit. It has charted for comedy fiction in 49 countries. It spent 7 weeks on Apple's new and noteworthy chart. Frankly, it's a podcast with credentials. You don't need my word for it, but I'm going to give it anyway. If you like podcasts with adventure, if you like podcasts with heart, if you like podcasts with impeccably high production values, I think you'll really love Encounter Party. There are 2 seasons currently available. There's a 3rd one launching this fall, making it the perfect time to jump in. I can't recommend enough that you check out Encounter Party wherever you listen to podcasts. For more party favors, head over to encounterparty.com. Now then, with all that said, let's throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. This week, I am just beyond excited, just like really, really, really excited to be sitting down with my good friend, Belle. Aura, thank you so much for coming on Party of One.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me. It's about time.
You know what? That's fair. That's fair. I accountability is what it is, and I deserve that. And I'm glad. I'm gonna accept the failure. I'm gonna live in the failure, and I'm gonna let the failure make me stronger. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Had a couple of technical issues, just kind of getting my microphone and all set up. It's just all this equipment is just kind of a nightmare. I am well over processed for the little bit of recording that I actually do. But other than that, it's a very rainy day down here in Savannah, and I have nothing to do because of quarantine.
Likewise, it is also very rainy here, which I feel like it's one of those things that I guess consider this your audio disclaimer in case future me forgets to put it in the intro, as I often do. There might be rain sounds in the background, but we're playing a game about ghosts, so I frankly feel like it's probably better that way.
It's apt. It's very soothing. It goes together.
Yeah. So real quick, before we dive in, why don't you take a moment and let the listeners at home know about all the stuff you've got going on that you want them to know about?
Let's see. To start with, I did get hired for the Kickstarter for Extreme Meat Punks Forever. Heather Flowers. It's a Steam game, video game rather, that I didn't know about until recently, but it was in the that recent bundle that went around during the Black Lives Matter bundle that went around that had a bajillion games in there. So I pleasantly already had it on my computer and was able to look it up, but they're doing a tabletop version of it, and
that's awesome.
Have been conscripted to write the rules for that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
we'll talk afterwards about dates, but that is fantastic. That is very exciting to hear.
Yeah, so I'm kind of learning about it as I go, and then just kind of playing it a little bit, scribbling notes, going back and playing scribbling notes. But it's really exciting. I'm happy to be a part of that. And then aside from that, I've got some burlesque work. I'm a burlesque dancer as a side gig, and so I've got a show coming up in a few months that I'm getting ready for. And that's about it. Not too much exciting these days.
Oh, those things are plenty exciting, though. I'm extremely excited to hear about this Kickstarter, which is extremely exciting, and I love Kickstarters, so this will be good. So, do you want to go ahead and dive into a game?
Why not?
All right. Well, I appreciate. See, that's the level of enthusiasm that we come after here.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
yeah. Well, we don't want out. I'm here. I'm here. What else am I going to do tonight?
Yeah.
All right. So we are playing A Lonely Haunt. It is a game about. This is an intimate game about using environmental manipulation to non-verbally communicate your needs and boundaries with another person. You and I are both going to play the role of ghosts who are unable to perceive each other, but are able to interact with the environment around them to a limited extent in ghostly ways. This game is going to be played over 6 nights, essentially. Like we are inhabiting the same place. We're going to kind of lay out what that place is and what objects are filling that space in a moment. How this is going to work is we're going to be over the course of 6 nights doing ghostly things and interacting with our in our environment to kind of convey what we want and what we can offer to the other person to try and like set our boundaries and find a way to co-haunt this establishment together.
Okay.
So the first thing that we need to do is we need to decide on a place that we are haunting. It can be any place that feels right for us, be it a house, cemetery, airport, or a forest. Any locale that will have things in it. Any and every place could be haunted, and we just don't know for sure that it's not. So, Aura, where do you want to haunt?
See, I feel like a house is a little cliche. It's kind of obvious. Although, it's very whenever I think of a ghost story or a haunting, I always think of like some big elaborate, old Victorian house.
Mm-hmm. I would kind of love the thing that popped immediately into my head, and I think this is just because if we're is it's kind of my bullshit, and I believe very strongly in leaning into bullshit. Like a either an arcade or a good haunted carnival is all like something where there's a lot of
Ooh.
like lights and sounds and stuff. You know what I mean? Like an
Yeah.
arcade or a restaurant or like a something where like that is I don't know, like something in those very broad parameters jumps out at me.
I really do like the idea of an arcade, actually.
I'm down for art. Like haunted arcade is very
Yes.
good, and that's kind of like that immediately. Like once I said arcade, that felt right to me. So now that we have our place, I want to throw out the detail that it's not a nice. It can't be a nice arcade, right?
No respectable ghost would be at a nice arcade.
Right. It can't be like a Dave. It's not a Dave and Buster's. It's not that a Dave and Buster's is nice, but like I'm not interested in a Dave and Buster's.
Is it a currently operating arcade, or has it been sitting aside for some time?
I'm gonna say barely still operating.
Gotcha.
Kind of like a I want it to be. Can it be a boardwalk art? Like the boardwalk arcades, where
Yes.
it's straight up like a tunnel from the street to the boardwalk. Like there's just 2 garage doors on either side, and you just walk through it, and there's 4 rows of arcade machines.
And like a very sketchy ice cream booth right next to it.
Yeah. Yeah. No one is currently or maybe ever at the ice cream booth, but periodically people are seen leaving the arcade with ice cream.
That sounds great. I love that.
All right, so we're going to lay out a number of objects. The game recommends 3 to 7, but I'm going to say maybe like 8 or 10. Let's say 8. I think 4 things each is a good number. What we're going to do is these are objects that we can use to interact with and communicate. They can be anything we can think of that would occupy this space. However, the important thing is that we cannot, under any circumstances, discuss what the objects could mean or how we might plan on using those objects. If we find ourselves discussing that, then that object is immediately unavailable for use.
Got it. Okay.
So I want to throw out immediately I'm going to say a 10-row skee ball machine, 7 of which work.
7 of which work. Okay. All right. I do love that. The obvious thing is to keep just doing more. I want to say one of the pull balls from a billiards table. Like that there's just a loose 8 ball somewhere stuck in a corner.
I love that. There is specifically a milkshake machine. It is specifically like one of those big McDonald's style milkshake machines.
Right. Um,
Dump 10 gallons of syrup in the top and let it do its thing.
it makes a concoction, yeah. I'm trying to, I feel like this would be, it may be a little more carnival than boardwalk, but it might fit. Like, maybe it's just like decoration or a prop, but one of those boards that, like, when they throw knives at you that you lean up against
Oh,
and
yeah.
you
Yeah.
pose and they throw one of those. It's like you're not meant to actually go in this arcade and throw knives at anyone, but they have one.
Okay.
It's
I
kind of
like
on
that.
set.
Yep. 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 I'm all about that. I want to throw in the detail of, I'm going to treat this as one object, but a number of, leaning on that a little bit, a number
Mhm.
of circus themed cardboard cutout, or like not cardboard but like
Oh,
particle board cutouts, like for photo ops.
yeah. Oh, that's creepy. That.
And it's all of anything circus themed you could think of. So there's like a couple clowns, there's a lion tamer with the chair and like in the lion's
Yeah.
mouth, all of the circus accoutrement that you can picture. There's a cutout, like the whole decor of this arcade is like circus themed.
Okay. I'm going to downgrade a little bit and say a plastic cup that was clearly like branded for some kind of event back in like the late 90s, let's say like 1998 or something, but like the arcade was maybe awarded like a long time ago best arcade or something, and they've got these little branded cups nobody cares about anymore, but it's just this like cup on a shelf somewhere where everything is the logo scratched off of it and all, but you can kind of see a little bit of the former glory of the place.
I am going to, the last thing that I want to throw out is, this is an important question. This is I know what I want it to be, and I have to think very hard about which. I'm thinking it's an X-Men arcade machine, and I'm going to say Nightcrawler is not available.
I was going to do the same thing for a Street Fighter machine, so that's awesome.
It's specifically, the old X-Men arcade machine where like you had to drop the quarter in a specific spot to play Cyclops, Colossus, Dazzler, Storm, Wolverine, and Nightcrawler. It's that one, but like the Nightcrawler coin slot just doesn't work. There's no one can play, and no one. You just don't play Nightcrawler. If you put your coin in there, it's not going to go.
um. Oh, the coin machine that you put money in and it shoots quarters out at you for you to use.
Oh, that's very good. Okay, so there's our, and I think we can probably, I'm fine like adding more objects as we go. I'm certain
Sure.
that we'll kind of like come up with more stuff, but this gives us a good basis of like things that we can interact with.
Right. Okay.
So, now that we've kind of, now it's time to think about our ghosts. You are someone that is haunting this space. You have something that you need from another entity. This should be probably pretty vague in general and kind of can get more specific as we go. Something like acceptance, regret, validation, vindication, or something along those lines. You have something that you need and something that you can offer. So we're each going to privately write down what we need and what we can offer, and then we will reveal those. We can discuss what those are afterwards, but for now, like, we cannot explain what those are to each
Okay.
other.
But we have two different things, one that we need and one that we offer.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
All right. I think I have it. All right. So now we are in our first night. How this is going to work is we're going to decide who goes first. Our first ghost is going to do something to express themselves in the environment through manipulation of one or more items. The other ghost is going to respond with their own object manipulation. We each may only make one statement per turn. So that is to say, I make a statement, you make a statement, like that is considered one turn.
Okay.
And then the first night ends when the first ghost takes a third act or takes a second action. So it's ghost one, ghost two, ghost one, to establish contact and to establish that the two ghosts know that they are in the space together.
Okay, great.
So, would you like to go first or should I?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go first. So, I can't remember if you stated, are we limited to the 4 items that we picked, or can anyone use anything?
You can interact with any object in the room, or if you want to establish a new object, you can feel free to throw it out.
Okay.
I feel like we can play kind of fast and loose with the object list because I feel like we have a pretty good idea of the things you'd find in a
Sure.
skeezy boardwalk arcade.
Okay. All right. Let me look over the list here.
I will drop the full list into Discord.
Okay. So just to kind of get a sense of what the place is looking like, are we talking like after hours or while people are still in there?
What do you think? I want to say, if you have do you have a strong preference?
I do, because already this feels very lonely. Like the
Mm-hmm.
location that we've picked, as far as like where it's at in the boardwalk, and just kind of it just seems kind of run down and ramshackle. I think it would lend itself better to just two entities in the building when no one else is.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Okay.
I also like the idea that that means that, like, to a certain extent, that could also be kind of any time in the day, night, like
Right.
when it's open, closed. It's not exact. Like, there's such little foot traffic that, like, what constitutes a night for this arcade could be any time.
That's a good idea. Yes. Okay. All right. So, let's see. I need an event. I'll go classic ghost here. I think I've got something that fits. A that 8 ball from the billiards table, that had previously just kind of rolled into a corner and had never been seen for a while. Uh, just kind of on its own surreptitiously starts to wiggle free from where it's at and just rolls openly into the middle of the arcade next to one of the machines.
I like that. I'm going to throw out another object just because I
Okay.
think it feels right. And that is along near where the milkshake machine is, there is a like kind of a bar, like a bar rack, for a way to put it, of where, your silverware, your napkins, your spoons, all of the kind of like silverware and like bar, like utensils, things like that. There's just one
Mhm.
of those like kind of sectioned off racks for it, like a plastic tub that has been sectioned off.
Right.
I think that rack, um as violently tilts forward, almost like catapulting everything in it outward, and all of the plastic forks, knives, and spoons hurtle at an incredibly high speed towards the knife throwing board, which has one
Oh,
of those big layouts of like the big like target layouts that you always see on the knife throwing board, and
yeah.
they all land like extremely like in the center of the knife throwing board, like target block.
Okay. Huh.
Not all of them stick because they're plastic, but some of them do, but not all of them because they are plastic silverware.
Yeah. So part of this is also trying to figure out what you're trying to say in response to that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Um. Okay, and I get one more. Um. Let's say that the the board itself, the knife throwing board, it's got all these things lodged in it now. Um. Turns just like it rocks a little bit on where it's kind of leaning near the wall, just enough to get into the natural light that's filtering through the front door, so you can like see it better.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. And with that, that is our first night. We have gone back and forth, and our ghosts have made each other aware of each other. As we go, like, if you have any notes you want to like kind of quietly like make to yourself, we'll kind of like we discussed, we'll kind of go over the whole thing in the debrief after. But for now, like, our only interactions will be those ways that we uh that we convey things to each other through object manipulation.
Mhm. I already love this.
I'm This is good. Like, this is very good. I'm very excited. Yeah. So, night 2. We now have the next we have 4 more nights. Our next night will consist of 5 back and forth interactions. Our third night will consist of 7. Our fourth will consist of 5. Our final scene will again just be 3 back and forth interactions, and then we will have our final scene where we talk back and forth and reveal who our characters are and talk through how we felt about them.
Okay. Cool.
So it is now night 2. Would you like me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead and go first.
Okay. So night 2, what happens is the first thing that happens is in all 7 of the skee ball machines that work, they all activate at once, and all like 7 of their balls come rolling down that little side chute and are like immediately like available.
I really feel like, just kind of off of what we've done so far, that we have picked similar things, but I have no idea
Nice.
as far as what we need and offer.
We'll need to find out.
Yeah. I'm going to also pick the skee ball machine. I'm trying to work out some ghost physics here.
I mean, they don't have to make sense. We are ghosts.
Sure. I think one of the balls that has presented itself gets down into a position where it can moves from like that little socket area to the main alley for it, and launches itself up like around to the track in the target area. Doesn't really land anywhere in particular, just kind of fouls back out and goes back, but it specifically has taken one of the provided balls and shot a shot with it.
What happens next is the plastic cup with the like best arcade on the boardwalk 1998 logo on it comes off of its tiny shelf and floats over towards the milkshake machine, which starts to like rattle with a big like dung 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 as it starts to like come to life. Milkshake pours into the cup, and it rests directly in between the skee ball machine where a ball just flew and the one, not the one next to it, because that's one of the ones that's broken, but the one that's one over from that. So it's kind of in the middle of this like broken skee ball machine that is itself sort of a barrier between 2 other working skee ball machines.
Huh. Okay. I think in response to that, there's like a long pause, and then the coin machine just kind of like shudders a bit, like it's coming to life, and just starts pouring out quarters, just wildly shooting them out to the point where they're overflowing the cup and spilling onto the floor.
I like that. I like that a lot. And I think that my the last action of the evening is ball after ball after ball, following the exact same thing that happened earlier, where a ball kind of like rolled out of that chute down the hallway and rolls and starts going, except instead of just landing nowhere in particular, it's 5,000, it's 5,000, it's 10,000, it's 5,000. Like it is hit for hit for hit for hit for hit. At which point the last ball goes in and the milkshake cup like shudders and like tilts like violently, kind of like comes up and gets spiked down onto the skee ball alley where this has just happened.
Okay.
And that is the end of our second night.
So night number 3 has 7 back and forths, right?
Yes, and you will go first because I went first last time.
Okay. God, I really do feel a sense of communication so far. What haven't we used? No, I know so the first night the 8-ball kind of rolled out, and I'm gonna say in the interim nobody really noticed and is kind of still hung out there. But it kind of wiggles to life and slowly rolls over towards the skee ball machine from the prior night until it just gently bumps against it and runs.
I think what happens next is I think the ball, in one kind of like fluid sweep, gets swept off of the floor and like hurtles back towards the mostly broken but like or like not so much broken as just kind of like a little bit crooked and a little bit like uneven the pool table, where it lands and rolls and kind of rests like against in sort of a side wedge, but it kind of one beautiful Superman leaping over a building arc comes up from the edge and like lands right in the center of the pool table, where it kind of rolls slightly to the side because the pool table is a little crooked.
Right, right, got you. Okay, I'm gonna add a thing. Evolution machine,
Yep.
um, like 2000s. Um, and like all DDR and arcade, one of the arrows does not work on the pad.
Oh, for sure.
Uh, um, but it's just kind of like in passive mode where it's just sort of quietly going through the credit scenes. Um, but it kind of shoots up with like in volume. It gets really loud and the lights get really bright, like it's like someone's just started on it to play it. Like it's just very explosive and loud and bright in how it's presenting itself.
Yeah, so those lights and sounds like fill the room, and everything is vibrating a little bit, as everybody hears like choose your song.
Yes.
um and so it would almost be easy to notice or difficult to notice that the coin machine is rattling again, except this time the coins don't dump out, they blast headstrong. They are a machine gun of they are like a tiny machine a round of machine gun fire in the direction of the DDR machine.
Mm.
Um, three coins, three tokens each land in the player 1 and the player 2 slot.
Ooh.
A seventh coin cracks not the screen itself, but like the plastic or glass above the screen where it's like a picture of two happy dancing people.
Yeah.
Like cracks and like embeds in that spot.
Got it.
How many turns was that? Was that 3? It's 3.
Yeah.
1, 3, 4. That was 5, I think.
So we each have one more.
I think yeah.
Okay. God, I've got such a limited economy here, and I'm. Okay, so this one might be a little abstract, but the X-Men machine or the
Mm-hmm.
X-Men machine, sorry, the X-Men machine. How Nightcrawler's not available in that one.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the well, no, we're ghosts. I don't even necessarily think we would have to put coins in there, but yeah, we'll do that. The coins, some of the coins from the coin machine make their way over to the game, and how you put the coins in to pick who you want. It goes through just kind of one by one putting in coins to pick different characters, with a noticeable gap for where you would be able to pick Nightcrawler, but you can't, and then it repeats the cycle.
Got it. I like that. I think what happens is um the machine itself, the X-Men machine, sparks a little bit, and like the screen kind of flickers a little bit, and it kind of like skips through, and like all of the X-Men are on the field, and it skips through a little bit, and it's like you're walking, you're fighting the Sentinels, and then they're back, and then they're back, then they're like, then it skips to a different level, and suddenly the screen flickers again, and it is on the final level, right? You're fighting Magneto, like it is the end of the game, except one of the controllers, one of the sticks starts to move a little bit, and like all of the X-Men carry, I think it's got to be the Nightcrawler stick, right? Yeah, what am I? Yeah, it's the Nightcrawler stick. The Nightcrawler stick starts to move, and with it, Magneto moves on screen.
Oh,
and starts like pacing around and doing his taunts, and like all of the other X-Men are motionless, but there's this but the Magneto isn't necessarily attacking yet. It's just walking around the other X-Men. It kind of tentatively like throws a punch at Colossus, and like keeps kind of ducking and weaving as the controller is like the controller, and like you see the the attack and jump and special buttons are like rattling, but they're not moving. And it's just what like Magneto is just sort of, for lack of a better way to put it, like tap dancing around the other characters on screen.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that was that 7 or was there
That's
one more?
7. I believe that is
Okay.
7.
Yeah.
All right. So the next night is another 5 night.
Okay. Do you want to hit first with this one?
Yeah. I think. I think in the tradition of in the tradition of what is secretly the most exciting thing that can happen in any arcade, those coins or that DDR screen has not changed, and like it hasn't expired because people put credits in, but no one has gone to the DDR machine all day.
Yeah.
So I think what happens is I think what happens is like it's just been kind of being like choose your song like all day, and
Right.
finally it starts like flipping through, and it'll flip and it'll do the random select, but it'll hang on a screen for a moment,
Mhm.
and then it'll flip random select, hang on a screen for a moment, flip, hang on, and like hang on all every time it does that. It's a different like song, different difficulty, different style of music, but it'll flip, hang on a song, like hover for a moment and keep doing that and doing that and doing that and doing that.
Okay. Okay. So I think like in the middle of that happening as it is, and as that process is going, um the skee ball machine, where the balls are the parts of it that do work, kind of similar to what happened on your turn a few nights ago. They all start wildly launching up and hitting areas with very good accuracy, but they are going aggressively fast, you might say, just like if you saw someone like a person doing this, you would tell them to calm down or stop, that they're
Mm-hmm.
going too hard. And it is just wildly going over and over, the balls rattling and banging against the alley, just making all kinds of like a commotion.
Um, and the next objects that get interacted with, I'm adding an object, and it is one of those. I'm going to ask you your preference. Is it
Okay.
is it one of those terrible video screen jukeboxes that like the touchscreen doesn't really work, so you kind of have to punch it, but it also gets hot enough that when you do that, the tips of your fingertips burn? Or is it like a novelty old school jukebox, but the novel it's less novel when you realize the music hasn't been updated since like the mid to late 90s, so like there's a lot of like Mr. Big on that old jukebox.
I really feel like the older jukebox fits in with the
Okay.
aesthetic of this place. I feel like they only update when it's very necessary for their business.
So then the jukebox rattles to life and the lights come on, and the plug to the DDR machine violently comes out, and there's kind of like a burst of spark, right? Like in the, you know, there's a little bit of smoke, and like it seems for like everything, and it kind of rattles, and the jukebox starts to shake until finally it starts playing. Hold. It starts playing No Easy Way Out by Robert Tepper, the
Okay.
song from Rocky 4 when he's driving in the montage. And the other sleeve, the same one, the same second one from the other night, like comes down, and like a ball like calmly rolls to the center of the skee ball machine.
Hmm. Okay. Duh, duh, duh.
And if I may add just one more
Yeah.
detail. I think I'm just gonna go full on with it. And like, yeah, the balls do the exact same thing. They're flying at the same level of aggression and a same level of like speed and aggression, but they are syncing. Some of them are syncing exactly as like accurately, some of them not so, but it is the same level. There's now two skee ball machines in which the balls are just hurtling at the targets.
Okay, I've got it. Um, one of the skee balls on the machine um lifts up, and let's say this. I'm trying to figure out the anatomy of this of like a
Mm-hmm.
standard skee ball machine that's got the like digital scoring things above it. It
Yep.
kind of looks like an old watch face, well, not
Yep.
well, like a
Yep.
digital watch. One of the skee balls just fucking slams through it, just breaks right through. Like it just crashes through that, and the machine itself starts like rocking and shaking against the wall.
And I think what happens next is there is like stillness, right? Like there's smoke around. There is like the machine, the DDR machine is sparking. No Easy Way Out is blaring, and it's outside of all of that racket. It is like stillness before the milkshake machine rattles on again. That best of cup that was kind of like spiked on the floor picks up, fills up. Another plastic cup gets pulled off of a shelf, fills up as well, and the best on the boardwalk cup lands on your skee ball machine, and the regular, like less decorated plastic cup lands on the second machine, both full of strawberry milkshake.
I honestly feel like I can kind of get a sense of what you're trying to communicate. Like I really do, and
I feel like we're there, and I feel like we have one.
fuck.
Like this is the final scene of like 3 interactions.
Yeah.
So I feel like we've gotten there, and I feel like I'm excited to talk through like who our ghosts are and if we've gotten what we wanted.
Okay, so last night, I think it's me, you, me.
I believe it is.
Okay. All right. DDR machine comes on again, and
Ooh, I like that. I'm gonna add the detail to that there is like the X out tape on the front of it to say that it's out of order because it got blown out last night. But it still comes on, but that's like in front of it.
Yeah. It comes on, and like it's just it. You could tell that the machine is like whatever ghostly bullshit is going on to make it do what it's supposed to do. It's clearly having like problems with the wiring and the hardware inside. So there's like maybe you can hear, if you get close enough, this little sizzle and like this burning smell of like the machine operating against the laws of reality. But the screen itself, the images on it are very warped and in kind of like that generic creepypasta way, where it's like, oh, I got a video game and the main screen
video game
looks
is
so
evil.
Different. Yeah, it's kind of like that, but it really just looks like the machine is suddenly on its last leg. But it is going through a catalog of songs until I'm gonna say again. Do you remember Butterfly from from DDR?
Oh, I remember Butterfly. I remember Butterfly from DDR.
And like the arrows for, okay, I'm trying not to be a little too obvious with it, but we'll say that like it starts to play that and it just keeps going until clearly about to bust if whatever is happening continues to happen, and the screen sort of flickers back out after that.
And I think as it is going, those cardboard cutouts, the thing that we have not interacted with yet, they all kind of pick up off the ground, and the second set of arrows start lighting up as well, and the one that doesn't work just explodes, like as though like a sledgehammer just smashes it. And those cardboard cutouts are now like spinning around this nearly burnt out DDR machine. Not so much in a full circle, but in kind of a half circle where they kind of come. They are transfixed on like the screen, and they're always like the painting on them is always facing the screen, and they're just kind of moving in a half circle from one end of the machine to the other, as it's just like a cavalcade of lights and colors and lights and colors and arrows and arrows and arrows, and this broken down arrow just keeps getting smashed further as the arrows are lighting and lighting, and the song is just going and going and faster until I think it really does the machine just shower of sparks and and like does just shy of explodes.
Oh god. Oh, I think there is a sort of stillness after that, where like the machine can't do anything more, and it's very quiet. Yeah, I'm gonna say the ball from before rolls over, almost pinballing very slowly past the cardboard cutouts. Um, like not trying to beat its way past them, but like nudging them to get through until it comes to rest right up against the side of the pad and just stops and waits.
And I think the cardboard cutouts eventually like land gracefully on the floor and just settle. And we focus on that 8 ball, and that is where our ghostly encounters end. And so, with that, we can now talk through, in our own words, who our characters are, what they were looking for, what they thought they had to offer, and if they felt they got what they needed. We can discuss scenes, notes, and talk through whatever else of the experience that we wanted, and
Yeah.
the game notes that we both win. So, congratulations.
Hooray!
So, I feel like we both had a pretty clear idea of who we were, but who was your character?
So I was going for someone who the kind of like very vague backstory I had was someone who had maybe won a high score at this place a long time ago, and that it had since been broken or maybe discounted for some reason, but that they were like a really big fan of the arcade and it meant a lot to them, so that's where their ghost had come to rest.
Hmm.
Do you want to go ahead?
Oh, please continue.
No, I was going to ask, do you want to hear about the validation and or the need and support?
Yeah, I will say I am glad that was the case, because I was playing the ghost of a world champion like arcade player who the thing that I wanted. Yeah, let's talk through like what we wanted and what we needed and what we had to offer. I needed validation. Like I was, and what I could offer was competition. Like I was someone who was in life so obsessed with winning and being the best player that my ghostly self merely wanted to continue to play games specifically against the other person, and specifically wanted to continue to have that sense of like winning and being the best. And what I could offer was I could make those games happen. Like I broke X-Men to make it a competitive like PvP experience.
um, I also had a need for validation, but what I was trying to offer was support, in that like I wanted the spotlight on what I was doing as well, and I feel like you also kind of wanted the spotlight on your
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time I was also willing to say what you're doing is cool, let me help you get there.
Mm-hmm.
But there got to be a point where I definitely saw the competition, or at least a competitive angle coming through, and I think the
Mm-hmm.
ghost kind of neglected to want to offer support at that point.
I think so. I definitely felt that, and there was definitely a moment where there's a very specific moment where I felt like what your ghost wanted was not purely competition, and that's why my ghost like offered you what had become the makeshift like trophy, what had been sort of declared as the skee ball trophy.
Yeah.
It was very much a like, you know what, you win this one. It seems like you're not having fun with the competition. Like you win this one, let's have a milkshake.
Yeah, it was there was definitely a sense of like you had I was throwing the skee balls earlier because, just like this seems fun. And then you like fucking killed it. Like you were just getting point after point on there and dunking it really hard. So at one point, I think there was like a bit of jealousy there, and I tried to do the
Mm-hmm.
exact same thing. And then when you returned the favor, it was just like, fuck it. Like, I'm just going to break the fucking machine.
Right.
Like, screw
And
this.
I think that was kind of the moment where like that was kind of a moment where I learned about like the ghost that I was inhabiting, and it's
Mhm.
one of the things that I like about like I like the note in the game about like keep it vague at first, because I
Yeah.
kind of learned I learned in that moment that even though like all I had written about this ghost was that I wanted to win and be the best, and I was willing to like compete in whatever game I could compete in. That was definitely a moment where like I realized that my ghost at the end of the day, it's a game. Like at the end of the night, like this is a game, and if you're upset, like you like I will let you have the win. Like it was definitely a moment
Yeah,
where I realized that this ghost, this person that I was inhabiting, was not trying to destroy someone. They just wanted. That's just how they play a game. It's how they interpret the act of play.
yeah. The I felt like I picked up on the putting the world's best or the 1998 like trophy cup on top of the machine. Like a little I felt like a little sad when that happened, like because I had just like had to go throw a tantrum. So I was trying to kind of like with the last night just open up the DDR machine because prior to that you had done similar and gone through like a bunch of songs in every
Oh
one, and it
yeah,
was it was kind of like a peace offering. It's like, we can play this too if you think it's fun. Like, what's your favorite game? Let's do that. Like, let's just have a chill time.
and and it's funny that your ghost was like, let's just do this thing and have a chill time, and I was like, there needs to be a crowd. We need to be competing. This key is broken. I'm gonna smash it. I hate that I have the one with the broken down button. I was like, no, crowd. People need to see this. People need to see me win.
See, I took it as less of like you trying to see people or have people see you win, as more of like, since I felt like I could kind of tell that we both were looking for validation at that point in some
Mm-hmm.
regard, that you were offering an audience like for both of us almost is what I felt there. So I think the ghost felt like a little at ease. I
I'm
didn't.
glad. I'm glad about that. Like I thought
Yeah,
it felt like in that moment that it felt like in that moment that we were both like, let's do this. Like I definitely felt like at that moment we had both accepted that we were. It was exactly like we were saying in between turns of like, oh, I know who your ghost is, and we were both like in that moment like, okay, we know who we are, we know how we relate to each other. Let's play the game and let's make this a championship match.
yeah. I think like one last thing I want to point out, the with the X-Men machine was when you had the kind of the unused controller come to life for Magneto, and you said you were trying to make it as like a PvP thing.
Uh-huh.
That was a very complex action that I spent a lot of time trying to figure out exactly what you were trying to say with that, because I think my first interpretation of that, it was like changing as it was going on, but it was like almost a sense of, even if something's broken, we will still find a way to make it work. And I feel like that was something that I probably needed to hear, like as the ghost, like
That's very funny because like what I intended that to be was like you had what I intended that to be a peace offering, right?
yeah,
I intended that to be like you didn't want to play a competitive, like you didn't want to play DDR because like I was flashing songs to kind of be like, do you want to do this song?
yeah,
Do you want to do
yeah,
that song? But then when you went to the X-Men machine, I was like, I'm gonna do this thing and I'm gonna make it a PvP experience. But for me, the important detail of that was that like Magneto didn't appear and just like use all of his boss abilities to like wreck house.
yeah,
I was very consciously in my head like envisioning it as playing. You know how you ever play a game against somebody who is like, you ever play like a fighting game against somebody who is like reading the rule book as you do it, and
yeah,
like you're
yeah.
trying to learn the rules. So I was very constantly trying to describe that play style of like, I'm jumping. I'm jumping. All right, this is the jump button. I figured out the jump. All right, I'm jumping. All right, this is what I jump. Okay, here should I jump forward? Okay, cool. If I hold forward and up, I'm gonna jump. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Can I double jump? I can double jump. I'm gonna double jump now. And like it was that experience of like coming, throwing a quick punch and go, oh god, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to punch. I didn't mean to punch. I'm sorry. Like it was
Th-
that very specific kind of like figuring out how to play the game experience.
that makes so much sense. Yes, like going back and looking at that, like I was attempting to say that, like, one of these options doesn't work, but there is still space for it.
Mm-hmm.
With Nightcrawler not being, because there was that beat where like all the characters were being picked, but one couldn't, and then like it just, I guess, like in like keeping consistent tone with the game, like it felt like I knew you were trying to get at something, but I just couldn't quite figure it out. But it felt good,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
And that was I could tell you when you broke the skee ball machine. I could tell your ghost was like, you were like, I don't want to play this way. I don't want to
Yeah,
play this type of thing. And which is why I think that was why I really kind of wanted that detail of like, I'm not just like rushing at you and laying down oblivion. I'm very specifically like just trying to draw you out, see like what you'll do in response, because I was like, obviously they don't want to play, obviously they don't want to be, they are not the same sort of hyper competitive asshole that I was in life, but like I think we can still find ground in which we can have a lot of fun, like aggressively or competitively playing against each other.
that's so good. I love that so much. Like,
Oh.
yeah, they were. It was specifically just a very sad like spirit that just wants to not be forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
And then like so any sense of like competition felt like one-upsmanship, where it's like you are still going to be forgotten because look how good I am. And it's like pay
Right.
attention to me. And there was just a lot of frustration building behind that. But like I like that interpretation so much.
And I really I I definitely I picked up on that, and I think like there was definitely like a shift in me around. I feel like breaking the skee ball machine was when it was a light bulb moment where like I was like, oh, I get everything that is going on now. Like I get it now, because that was the moment that I was like, oh, I can't just continue to like in the same way that I was saying like I recognized my ghost was like, this is just a game, like this is just, we're just playing. It was a moment where I was like, I can't like if I can't continue to just offer competition because it is clearly like causing strife. Like it needs to, then I need to take a step back and like offer ways for us to compete in a healthy way, because
Yeah.
just chasing after the competition is not enough.
On kind of like a meta note, the notes that I was taking during this about kind of how I felt about your ghost as they presented themselves during the episode. I think the first note that I wrote down was that is your ghost like trying to show off? Like, are they trying to say, "Look how good I am"? And then that kind of mutated into me writing down, I think they just want to play, which you did in a sense. You did want to compete,
Mm-hmm.
and then it went for, are they just looking for someone to compete against? And then that changed into, do they think they're better than me? Like it went from, it very quickly turned on a dime from, like you're showing off too much, and I don't approve.
I kind of had the opposite arc, like thinking it through of like
Uh-huh.
when, especially like when we first started, and like I was like, oh, we are playing super similar. We're playing two people that really, really want to compete and win and chase after.
Yeah.
And then we started, and then that skee ball game immediately. I almost kept thinking the notes that I kept jotting down are like, is this a is this a kid? Like, is this just a kid? I was like,
Yeah.
is this just like a kid? I was like, is oh this and that was kind of the note that like made me kind of like oh, I'm like an adult playing in an arcade with a child. Oh god.
That's so good. And like I can totally get that, because it does seem like just one long temper tantrum, really.
Hmm.
It seems like someone, I guess, and that's accurate in a sense, who was not at the same level emotionally as the person that they were trying to bond with.
Right. And so like it required me to like step back. This game owns is the
I
thing.
love this
Like
game.
the fact that we conveyed all of that through like skee ball is great.
Yeah,
This was really good. Frick.
I am absolutely bringing this to the table when I get together with my friends next weekend.
Good. It's good. It's a good game. Like, oh, what a wonderful game. Thank you. Thank you so much for playing it with me. This was delightful.
This really was. Thank you so much for having me. I love this.
Oh my goodness. So real quick, before we wrap up, where can people find you and your work online?
So I am on Twitter at Aura Kate, which is AuraCate. CAIT. And that's where that's kind of like my general home for everything, and where I'm putting notes about what I'm working on and everything. So you can find me there.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for doing the show. This was such a wonderful, special experience, and I apologize that it took so long for it to happen. That's on me. I recognize that.
It was worth the wait.
Accept the failure, live in the failure, let the failure make me stronger. But for now, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap things up. Take it, future me. Thanks, Past Me, and thanks again to Aura for coming onto the show. That game was... Fuck, that was a good game. Like, that was beautiful, and, like, it was perfect. It was everything I wanted from reading A Lonely Haunt, which is just a really wonderfully concise, and, like, it captures what it's going for so perfectly and immediately, and... God, I really loved playing it, and I want to play it again, quite frankly. It's a good game. You should check it out. In the show notes, there's a link, A Lonely Haunt. Also follow Aura on Twitter, @AuraKate. Then while you are on Twitter, follow us at Party of One Pod. Like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/partyofonepodcast. Join our Discord community at bit.ly/partyofonediscord. Head to our merch store at bit.ly/partyofonemerch. If you enjoy the show, consider leaving us a nice review on Podchaser. It sends an email to my inbox. It's a nice way for new listeners to find the show. And frankly, it makes my day when I get one. So please make my day by sending us a nice review. You can also give us some love on social media or tell a friend about the podcast. Anything to help us grow, find new listeners, and do bigger, better, and cooler things. The other way that you can support the show is by supporting the other podcast I produce, All My Fantasy Children. AMFC is a character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast on the One Shot Podcast Network. In which my best friend Eric Gatanosize and I take a listener-submitted prompt every single week. We spin it into an original fantasy character, and we populate a shared universe one story at a time. New episodes drop every Friday-ish at oneshotpodcast.com. Now, Party of One is produced and edited, as always, by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. All music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Megaran, featuring the D&D Sluggers. And the Party of One logo is by Evan Rowland. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, coming on the show as a guest, or about press coverage of the show, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And, I think that's it. I think that's all we got. So until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.